My friends, they will tell you that kindness is a virtue, and they are right. But they will not tell you what that virtue will cost you. Because kindness, true, disciplined kindness, will ruin your life in 8 powerful ways. Detach emotion from expectation, a lesson few understand until life forces it upon them. We live in a world obsessed with return, where every act seeks a reaction, every gift demands gratitude, and every effort begs for recognition. But the one who ties his worth to the response of others becomes a slave to outcomes. He begins to measure his goodness not by its truth, but by its applause. When you do what is right with the quiet hope that someone will see it, praise it, or return it, you have already surrendered your freedom. The strength of character does not bloom in the shadow of approval. It grows in the solitude of self-command. To detach emotion from expectation is not to stop feeling, it is to rule what you feel. When you offer kindness and receive silence, you remain steady. When you speak truth and meet resistance, you do not bend. You learn to act from principle, not from hunger for validation. You begin to see that the right act carries its own reward, invisible to the crowd but known to your conscience. There is a serenity that comes when you no longer need the world to agree with you. Expectations are the subtle architects of disappointment. The moment you expect thanks, you plant the seed of resentment. When it does not come, you feel robbed, not because good was not done, but because your motive was mixed with desire. The wise man knows this trap and walks away from it. He understands that to act rightly for its own sake is to align himself with nature's order, doing what must be done simply because it is just. He does not bargain with virtue, he obeys it. Emotion, when unguarded, can corrupt even noble deeds. Compassion becomes pride, generosity becomes manipulation, love becomes control. Every emotion, however pure, must be watched carefully, for it seeks to attach itself to outcome. Detachment is not indifference, it is mastery. The detached soul still feels deeply but does not let feeling dictate the course of action. He can love without owning, help without expecting, and give without keeping count. That is the highest form of discipline, to rise above the instinct of reward and dwell in the clarity of purpose. To act without expectation is to discover an inner peace that no loss can disturb. Praise may come, or it may not. Gratitude may follow, or it may fade. Yet the act remains pure, untouched by the noise of reaction. You learn that the world's opinion is as fleeting as breath, and what endures is the integrity with which you meet each moment. Virtue becomes its own prize, not because the world declares it so, but because in living it, you find the calm strength of one who no longer needs to be seen to know he has done well. Endure the weight of misunderstanding, for it is the silent test that every sincere heart must face. When your intentions are pure, they will still be questioned. When your words are honest, they will still be twisted. When you give freely, there will always be those who call it weakness. This is the nature of the world, where the loud often drown the sincere, and the cynical mistake gentleness for naivety. Yet the one who walks the path of goodness must expect such trials, for truth rarely enters without resistance. The kind person will often stand alone, not because he is wrong, but because his motives are invisible to those who measure everything by gain. To endure misunderstanding is to stand firm in quiet dignity when the world misreads your silence, your mercy, your restraint. People will doubt your sincerity, they will assign you motives you never had, they will call your patience a mask for cowardice. You will feel the sting of being unseen and unheard, even by those you wish to help. But in that moment, the soul is refined. The pain you feel is not punishment, it is proof that you act from principle and not from praise. Endurance, not applause, measures the worth of the soul. The strong spirit learns to carry this weight without bitterness. It understands that others see through their own clouds, not yours. Their misunderstanding is the echo of their own fears, their own pride, their own wounds. To expect them to see clearly what you know within yourself is to ask the blind to admire a sunrise. So you do not waste time defending what truth will eventually reveal. You remain steadfast, knowing that clarity often comes late, and sometimes never comes at all. The task is not to be understood. It is to remain truthful even when you are not. Endurance is the quiet armor of the wise. It does not shout, it does not fight for recognition. It holds its ground while storms of judgment pass overhead. The world may mock, use, or forget the kind person, but such treatment cannot diminish real worth. For the one who endures misunderstanding without surrendering his nature shows the highest form of strength, mastery of self. It is easy to act kindly when you are praised for it. It is divine to do so when you are condemned for it. Every misunderstanding tests whether your goodness was genuine or merely a trade for acceptance. When you choose to endure, when you refuse to let resentment shape your heart, you reveal the unshakable foundation of your character. The soul that endures grows calm, clear, and self-sufficient. It no longer seeks to be seen as right. It seeks only to remain right within itself. And in that quiet endurance, strength becomes peace. Kindness as discipline, not weakness, a truth often forgotten in a world that confuses gentleness with fragility. To be kind is not to be naive, nor to bow before injustice. It is the deliberate act of choosing control over impulse, of mastering one's own temper in the face of provocation. The weak strike because they cannot endure the tension of restraint. The strong remain composed because they have conquered themselves. When chaos rages around you, when anger and insult call for retaliation, kindness stands as the quiet defiance of one who refuses to be ruled by emotion. It is not softness that keeps the hand from striking, it is power, contained and guided by wisdom. To remain kind when wronged demands more strength than to retaliate. It requires awareness, the ability to see beyond the momentary sting of offense and into the truth that cruelty only multiplies suffering. The disciplined mind does not yield to the crowd's noise or the heat of the instant. It measures, pauses, and chooses the response that preserves its peace. The person who practices kindness as discipline is not blind to evil. They simply refuse to mirror it. They understand that to respond to cruelty with cruelty is to let the enemy's poison enter your own bloodstream. True control is not in how loudly one can shout, but in how calmly one can stay centered when others lose themselves. Kindness demands courage. It asks you to step away from the satisfaction of revenge and the illusion of dominance. It takes immense inner fortitude to look at someone who has wronged you and decide not to become what they are. The world may see your calm as weakness, but in truth, you have achieved mastery over your nature. You have turned anger into discipline and pain into clarity. The storms that break others only polish your resolve. You remain kind, not because the world deserves it, but because your peace is worth more than your rage. Those who see kindness as weakness reveal their own fear, the fear that restraint means defeat. Yet the disciplined heart knows that victory lies in command of oneself. The cruel are enslaved by their impulses. The kind are free because they have chosen their reaction. Every act of restraint strengthens the will. Every moment of patience sharpens the spirit. The discipline of kindness transforms the heart into a fortress, unshaken, unprovoked, unbroken. To be kind, then, is not to yield to others but to master yourself. It is to act from principle rather than reaction, to choose reason over rage, and dignity over vengeance. Kindness, when rooted in discipline, becomes the truest expression of strength, not the denial of power, but its perfection. It is calmness forged in struggle, composure learned through pain, and control that stands unmoved when the world trembles. Choose to suffer wisely, for suffering is not an enemy to avoid, but a teacher to endure. Every act of kindness bears its cost. To care is to expose yourself to the wounds of disappointment. To give is to risk ingratitude. To forgive is to carry the weight of another's fault upon your own heart. Pain is the shadow that follows every noble act, yet it is not meant to break you, it is meant to shape you. The one who seeks a life without pain seeks a life without depth, for the soul grows not through comfort but through the discipline of endurance. When you choose to suffer for what is right, rather than avoid what is difficult, you exchange weakness for wisdom. The wise understand that suffering without purpose is misery, but suffering embraced with meaning becomes strength. To love someone who may never understand you, to help those who might never repay you, to stand firm in truth even when it costs your peace, these are forms of chosen suffering. They carve humility into the heart and patience into the spirit. The person who chooses to suffer wisely does not chase comfort, for he knows comfort dulls the edge of character. He does not curse the trials that come his way. Instead, he asks what they are meant to teach. Pain that is met with resentment poisons the soul, but pain that is met with understanding purifies it. In choosing to suffer wisely, one accepts that every worthy pursuit demands sacrifice. The athlete suffers for strength, the scholar for knowledge, the kind for compassion. The difference lies in choice, to bear pain with purpose rather than be dragged by it unwillingly. When you understand that your suffering serves a greater end, endurance becomes lighter, even noble. You no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstance, but as a participant in the refining fire that strengthens all who enter it willingly. Pain reveals what comfort hides. It shows you the limits of your patience, the depth of your convictions, the sincerity of your kindness. It strips away pride and exposes truth, who you are when nothing is easy. Many will flee from that mirror, but those who stand before it will emerge unshaken. The world will call you foolish for enduring when you could escape, but the one who runs from every hardship never learns what endurance can make of them. To suffer wisely is to transform pain into insight, wounds into wisdom, and endurance into grace. When kindness leads you into hurt, do not regret it. Let the pain refine your motives until they shine clean of expectation. Let it teach you that the heart's strength is not proven in comfort, but in its capacity to remain kind even when the world gives it every reason not to be.